afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another great episode of Basscast Radio. I'm your host, Brian Carter, and I got my second host, Bass Geek, and my third host, Fishing the DMV. We might as well just say it. We're just, we're Team Basscast Radio here, guys. And tonight we got a special guest in the house. You guys all know him from the Smith Mountain Lake Fishing Report that you can read each and every month on the basscast.com. We got Mr. Chad Green in the house, biologist, fishing extraordinaire, check stealer, taker, casher, guide service, last cast guide service. The man does it all. He can probably tell you where every rock, tree, limb is on a beautiful Smith Mountain Lake. Chad, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
All right, guys, what has been going on, everybody? We always go around the room and let's catch up, see what is happening. Bass Geek, you are to my left, right, whatever it is tonight. Let's go with you first, brother. What's happening in your world?
You know, man, we are finally, just getting to the point where we're pumping out some videos, getting to do a little bit of fishing. The bite has been on. Really been exciting. This little bite that I've been on out on one of my favorite little lakes, and hopefully we're going to get some videos about that. I don't know how much of it I want to share completely yet, but we'll see. We'll talk about it a little bit more. But videos coming out every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday, and then shorts in between. And so go check them out. We're dropping some pretty good ones here. We've already got shot and scheduled for the next month.
There you go. Thomas, what is up in your world besides your kayak tournament series you got going on right now? We're only 12 members, I think 12, right? 12 members away from a Patreon. I think that's what it is, 13, something like that. Yep. I try to keep up, guys.
Yeah, we're getting close to our goal before I shut down the membership to any new members for 2025. Yeah, right now it's as long as you got a bump board, you can join it. We got a jet boat guy that's leading the smallmouth division. We have a kayak guy and a bass boat guy leading the largemouth division. The guy actually, I think he went to a local reservoir and I think he dropped a 40-pound bag out of a local lake. It's like a 400-acre lake. He won't tell me. I know where it is because I have the back end stuff, but he told me not to tell people under penalty of death. But you guys can guess where that is. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun and got my boat in the shop finally. So I'm trying to get that old girl up to snuff so we can start getting out on the water again.
So we're almost ready to go.
We are. We got this BFL Smith Mountain Lake Double Trouble coming up here soon as well.
You're going to be there?
I will either be there drinking and enjoying the festivities or just fun fishing, but I won't be competing. No, not this year.
All right, well, I will be there. The 2-day, it's not 2-day, but it's two separate BFLs back-to-back. They're doing the Piedmont and the Shenandoah division this year. I think everybody's kind of trying to save gas in 2025 and trying to, I hate it being back-to-back like it is. But, the James River event is it's like week to week back-to-back. So I've been up there for that. But, either way, we get it knocked out and we get to move on to the next event because there's plenty of events going on right now. Smith Mountain Lake's going to be quiet this year. Ain't that right, Chad? It ain't going to be as hippity-hop as it has been in the last couple of years, which is good. We need a little break. But within a 5-hour driving range from us, there's an NPFL championship on Hartwell. There's a team championship on Hartwell. There's there is an NPFL event in April down on Lake Norman, everybody. I'll be down there for that final day. So within a few hours, this is your year if you want to see some pros. Also, a Bassmaster event 3 hours away down in North Carolina. So, this is the year if you want to see your NPFL, Major League Fishing guys, Bassmaster lead anglers, and you don't mind traveling less than 5 hours. That's my limit, by the way, guys. I fly after that. If you don't mind traveling less than 5 hours, you can see plenty of professional bass fishermen. And we're going to have a few. What is that? Chad, is it 30 people going to fish that Major League Fishing event that's going to be on Smith Mountain Lake this year?
Yeah, the heavy hitters in May. Yeah. It's a select group of people.
Yep.
Then you got isn't the NPFL coming next fall? or is that 2026?
Oh, they're coming up here?
What?
I think it's 2026.
Yeah.
Now, isn't there an Open coming to Smith Mountain? An
They
Open
want-
or a Toyota or
No.
Invitational?
That would
I
be
know
awesome.
the Opens want to come here, but the problem you run into with this lake is, you've got 3 different counties that join the lake. So there's always this juggle of who's going to help with what and who's going to benefit from what. So that's the big thing. And then you don't have a hotel here either.
Nope.
With the curiosity, with looking at the bank accounts of some of these professional anglers, how many of them actually go to a Motel 8? Because I don't see a Jacob Wheeler like rolling up
None
like
of them.
that. So I just out of curiosity, is the hotel better for like that lower tier? I guess is a lack of a better word.
Right.
That lower tier division. Because again,
Yeah.
PPT, I just don't feel like they're like, oh, okay, we're going to save pennies and go to mom and pop.
Right.
That's
But-
it, boys. Let's pull our finances. We'll open a hotel that's boat friendly.
Yeah.
Well,
here, Smith Mountain's a high tourist destination. So, during the busy time, look what a house costs here for a week.
Yeah.
It's not cheap.
yeah.
So,
And we all know that when the elites were here back in 08 and 09, they all stayed at homes and houses and stayed at one of my best friend's house at the time. And, they all just found houses, and that's how they ended up staying up here. So, with Airbnb, what's the other hotel? It's right around the corner from the state park. We have that, so we do have one hotel. The bad thing is there's nowhere really to plug too much into because they got all their golf carts plugged into the holes and all that good stuff. But, like Chad was saying, we've had really great success with the Big Bass Tour here the last couple of years. Hate it, love it, don't like it, not like it, whatever. It brings a crap load of money to Central Virginia. And you're talking about 800 people, 800 anglers showing up. And hell, that's more than 2 Bassmaster elites on Smith Mountain Lake ever brought in. Plus, like you said, the counties that have a lot to do with it. But I think, when when the Major League Fishing comes here, that's going to be on the it's going to go out of the same location. What is the name of the daggone county? I done lost my mind here quick.
you got Franklin, Pennsylvania, and Beverly.
Yeah. So Franklin County has got a young tourist board, and they are promoting bass fishing. And right now, they're the ones that are putting up the most money.
That's
and
awesome.
that's why it's going to be at my old location for the Bass Cast Tournament Series. I'm not mentioning any names, okay?
Well, you would think with 3 counties though that it would really be better for the pro tournaments because it'd create basically a bidding war, between the 3.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how that works. I've been involved with some of that conversation piece of it. It's kind of odd how it's all put together. You don't really know the details until you start hearing about the conversation pieces and who's putting that money up to bring those big names in here. So it does bring a large influx of money into the community. So being involved with the Chamber of Commerce here, like I have been, you learn a lot about what the economy structure is and where that, drive is to bring that money in. So it's more goes into it than what you think.
Yeah.
It's very deep details.
Yes.
But if any of you guys ever come, you need to come here. I got 2 extra rooms. I got a guy across the road, my buddy. He rents out of 2 rooms. So,
boom.
And to go really in the deep end here, it's really what sets the narrative from the cultural perspective. I've talked to a couple of boards, and you'll have Jessica on the phone, and she dictates what they're going to promote. And what ends up happening is if you have so many boards and so many counties being like, we want to promote winery and basket weaving because that's outdoorsy to us. Well, you do that for enough years, that's the culture that's promoted, and you can easily lose the outdoor and bass fishing. And so I think it's a good thing what they're doing here. I think it's a good thing you have these big tournaments there. You need to keep fishing at the high level in the zeitgeist of a Smith Mountain Lake. The James River is a classic example. The DWR didn't really care about what the James River did, and it took private people to fund it. And all of a sudden, when it started to be ranked as one of the best bass fisheries in the world for a very long time, they kind of got embarrassed that, okay, well, if this thing drops off the face of the earth, everyone's going to hear about it. And now they're trying to really step up. And I think that's one of the reasons Smith got the F1 program too. And that's because you got it in the zeitgeist of the culture. And if you do that long enough, you can really change the fortunes of bass fishing.
Yeah.
And that's really what happened. I mean, you know, the local people, local anglers, like you're saying, the F1 Tiger Bass. I got to read a commercial, guys, here in a second. But the F1 Tiger Bass, you know, that was a prime example because how many years, Chad? I think probably 5 to 10 years around there. It was all local anglers putting up their own money, and then the state started getting involved in it. And they're like, oh, crap. They should have been doing this all along. Now they're doing it in 4 other lakes. I mean, you know.
3 years, the first 3 years, it was all funded by fundraising and, you know, private investment. And that's what got it started. And it had to prove to be successful of the growth rates. And, you know, Smith Mountain has the big thing about Smith Mountain is it has the bait fish population to support it. You know, some of these lakes, if they don't have the bait fish population supported, you know, it's just like us. We won't grow rounder like us men do without food. So, you know,
All right.
So the same way. They got to have food to get more round like us, right?
That's true. All right, guys, let me read this real quick here, and then we'll dive into tonight's show. If you guys see who are watching YouTube, themoneysavers.store.com. Tired of watching your expensive lures disappear into the deep, afraid to cast where the big ones hide? Introducing the Money Saver Lure Retriever, the ultimate solution for rescuing snagged lures from the lake bottom. The powerful 2-inch, 3-ounce pocket-sized miracle is engineered for direct hit, plug knocking efficiency. Catch with the confidence into the trophy fish hideouts. Small investments, huge returns. Save hundreds on expensive gear while fishing where others fear to cast. No special skills needed. Just keep it in your pocket until you need it. The Money Saver Lure Retriever, your portable lifeline in snag-filled waters. Available now at moneysaver.store. I need something to get it out of trees. Woo! I can catch some squirrels. I'll tell you that right now, everybody.
You squirrel fishing.
Squirrel fishing. As I said, guys, Chad Green on with us, guys. I've been knowing Chad since I started this thing. An amazing friend, by the way. He took me and Danielle out guide tripping, probably the best trip I've ever had. We had a really good time. Did you guys say, Chad, that photo of me and you is my work photo, so everybody in the world sees that photo of you standing behind me at work? They're probably, who the hell are those crazy son of bitches right there? But it is us. I take you everywhere, brother. But guys, Chad's been doing the lake report for the last couple of years for the basscast.com. You guys all know that late Captain Dale Wilson did it for us for many, many years until he passed away after a long battle with a boating accident.
Ooh.
He got run over on Clater Lake.
God.
Yeah, he got run over on Clater Lake, and he never really recovered. I mean, surgeries after surgeries after surgeries. Dale was an interesting gentleman, but he loved that lake, and he gave 110%. And Chad is carrying on the banner for Smith Mountain Lake, and we appreciate him being a part of that. But yeah, we can pick up the pace about what we were talking about earlier about events on Smith Mountain Lake. It is a quiet year, guys. We do have the Major League Fishing guys are coming. We've got the CAT happening. The Bass Cast Tournament Series would have kicked off by now, our first stop. And I think we only have one Angler Choice event, but we do have Bass Nation. But other than that, it's just a lot of little small stuff happening on Smith Mountain Lake. So it is kind of getting a little bit of a rest this year. Not a whole lot of a rest because it does get beat up. I mean, we got a Tuesday nighter. Chad will tell you, it's Tuesday, there's a Thursday, a Friday, a Saturday, a Sunday. There's so many daggone tournaments. And also, I want to say this now. We love the Big Bass Tour. We talked about it earlier, but once is enough if you ask me. and it's only coming once this year, and I think that's a good thing. But I know they enjoy coming here because we were the first for the Big Bass Tour. We were the first location where they had a double event. We are their probably like number 1 or number 2 event, like for how many anglers show up. And like I said, it's over 800 anglers show up to fish the Big Bass Tour. By the way, guys, you're allowed to have 3 anglers on a boat. But Chad, you keep up with so much stuff going on the lake, and we just had a 10-pounder man who fishes Bass Cast Tournament Series, and a heck of an angler. Him and his brother both. Jared, they won a boat one year of the Big Bass Tour. What's the lake doing right now, man? What cycle are we looking for? I mean, like you said earlier, the tiger bass have been in there for quite a while now.
Yeah. The bass, I mean, we've had the coldest winter we've had here in a long time.
Yes.
We've had a massive shad kill. The thread fins, I mean, this is about as far north as you see thread fins. So having the shad kill for the first time in forever is a good thing. It will recoup in 18 months, and we'll have a large population of gizzard shad. That's what you want. That's what carries the proteins. That's what those fish can really thrive on and grow faster with. The thread fins dying off, that's a good thing to happen. Some people may disagree, but it will change it, because at one time that's all we had was gizzard shad. We didn't have that many alewives and thread fins because we got head kills every winter.
Blueback.
Yeah, and a lot of bluebacks died. Mm-hmm. They're not a real good cold water shad either. I was surprised. That's the first time that I have seen the bluebacks die. So it was kind of interesting to see that piece of it. But really, I mean, the water temperature is still really cold all over the lake. You can find water temperatures that are 49 degrees. You can find water temperatures that are 43, 44 degrees. But I think everything is about a month behind. There's a lot of fish that have pulled shallow, but these cold nights we keep having knocking these fish back a little bit. The last week and a half, 2 weeks, I mean, if I could get out on the water for a full day, I mean, I was catching 30 plus fish a day, and a lot of good fish. And then this past weekend, we had a cold night after that warm week last week. Everything kind of went dormant for the big fish. This weekend was a little bit tougher. Nowhere near as many big fish that we caught. We still caught them pretty good, 22 something. But a lot of people that have been catching them, the weights were down. But one thing that I noticed today, and every year here at my house, the spring peepers, I started hearing them usually about the 10th to 14th of February. Tonight is the first night that I've heard them sing. And we're at March the 5th.
Yes.
So
happy day.
Yeah. It's several weeks behind, and all of those creatures out in the wild, they all kind of run together.
Yeah.
It's a ground temperature base, and that's why even with all the dirty water, I mean, we had all this ice and snow that came out of the mountains. I mean, Smith Mountain's fed out of the mountains. So you had all this snow and ice melt and runoff come in. I mean, the water temperature dropped, here at the bridge. I mean, it was 38 degrees. We haven't seen that in a long time.
Wow.
Fishing for 27 years, something like that. It's been a long time since we've seen that. So I don't think, the fish have really made their big push forward. I mean, even the shad, I think they're really still, there's some cold weather to come. Because even when you find the right water temperatures and the fish are not there yet, they're holding back for something. That means your water depth, 10 foot, 15, 20 foot down is either still really cold or they're holding back because they know that it's just not time, because a lot of time the water temperature doesn't matter. They'll make their push regardless.
Time of day. I found length of day.
Yeah, that's what I was
And
going to say.
it's a balance. Seems like really length of day. You can't really just go on that water temp, but that
Yeah.
length of day, as those days get longer, even if it gets cold, they will start to push a lot of times.
I think there's a mathematical formula someone could do about that, because I think in the fall it's the same thing.
I wish
In the
they'd clue me in on it.
Yeah, in the fall, there's a time when you lose enough daylight and the vegetation starts dying, regardless of temperature. Those fish cue in to like, okay, we got to make the jump, and so it makes sense. Why wouldn't it be the same thing in the spring? The day just gets long enough that they realize like stuff's starting to happen. I think because I'm old, like the almanac said, like I think February or March has the most daylight added to it of any month, if I'm not mistaken, one of those two. So it makes sense when you get to the back end of that, they can start keying in like stuff's happening.
Right.
Well, I know we've got another cold front coming in, right? Like I know tonight they're giving snow flurries here, so I'm down right on the border between East Tennessee and Virginia. I live on the Virginia side, so I didn't know if that was going to hit you guys or not.
Right. Yeah. No, it's we front come through last night and some heavy rains come through, and the rivers that feed into Smith Mountain today, I mean, they were rolling mud, but it was a warm rain. It's 50, about 50 degrees today, I guess, when it rained, 49 or 50 degrees. Temperature's 44, 46 degrees. That warm rain, a little bit of runoff, that can help things move along.
I was told the Baxham Creeks are pretty daggone muddy right now, Chad.
Some of them are, some of them aren't. Some of them are warmer, some of them are colder. It depends on where you're at. There's a lot of underground springs here. And they're very close to the back of what some of these so-called creeks are. It's not necessarily a creek. Well, underground springs, they kind of maintain a steady water temperature every year, and some of them are cold water creeks.
Right.
So the biggest thing is, just waiting on that push. It's really going to change here. It could be tomorrow. It could be Sunday. It could be next Thursday. They haven't made that first change over far enough from what I've seen, even though, the big fish have been biting. I mean, it's Smith Mountain. They're biting. I mean, you can catch them, even when the water temperature's 40 degrees, it's big bags being caught. So
it's been a consistent 24 plus pounds the last couple of weeks. It's been right around that 24 pound mark. We did see an 8-pounder last weekend come out. So, I mean, the bags have been pretty daggone decent. I mean, the bags have not dropped off from the past. Even with the kill, we haven't seen the weights drop.
No. And the only thing that I've seen, and it's due to, the striper population versus bass population, we have seen a slight decline in the average size bass here. And that's due to population of fish versus bait fish population, right? You have to have enough bait fish every spring to get you through till September, where the new hatchlings are big enough to carry you through till the next spring again. So we have seen a slight decline in the average size striper, average size crappie, average size bass. I mean, I fish all the species. I've seen that decline. The number of 8-pounders, it has declined for me in my logbooks. I've caught one right at 8 this spring. I lost one last week that was around that range. But, in years past, when the gizzard shad population was thriving, the 8-pound mark if we see that come back, you mark my words, you will see more 10-pounders than what we're seeing now, because they're here. But I think when they're feeding on those smaller bait fish, they're going deeper, and they're a little bit harder to catch because they're after smaller bait. But the gizzard shad come back, they're after bigger bait that stays shallow most of the year. You'll start to see it come back again.
How much of it is also the fish changing with the increase in blueback, where there's a lot more of them that are pelagic now than there ever were, and so anglers haven't. Now, I think some anglers will, but the vast majority of anglers have adapted to more of them being pelagic. And is this something where maybe when the professionals come in May, they will start exposing some things that people just were obvious, but we weren't aware of them?
Well, the lake fish is pretty consistent in May. I mean, it's a shad spawn.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be focused on that. Now, are you going to see 8-pounders? No, you're not going to see them. Typically around here, 8-pounders disappear after the water temperature gets 55 degrees, 58 degrees, around in that time frame. They usually disappear. Now, can somebody catch one? Sure. But are you going to see very many? No, you will not. You just don't see them that much. That's a weird fish. Those 8 to 10-pound fish, they're so odd. Mm-hmm. It's just like the 20+ pound stripers. They're always somewhere away from all the other fish. So I mean, in May, I don't see a lot of things exposed. You might see different techniques to catch fish, but it'll be the same areas. You won't have any dirty water that time of year unless we get some strange flood. So, the blueback herring, shad spawn, that's what is going to be the ticket in May. And then you're going to see finesse fishing as the sun gets higher every day. It's been that way for a long time. Could
the pros potentially surprise you with the weights they catch, or do you think that there won't be any surprises like that?
No, I expect somebody's going to find. I mean, it is possible to see 24, 25-pound bags. But I don't think you'll see it consistent numerous days in a row. During that time period, I'm not sure how that heavy hitters format works, whether it's numbers of fish or whether it's their best 5 or whatever. I don't keep up with it much anymore.
I think they get a real like the big bass is just like
50,000 or 100,000 or something like that.
It's like a.
I mean, it's talking about how many fish they'll be able to catch.
Yeah, well, it's how many fish, but the heavy hitters itself are the guys that have caught like the big bass in like the tournaments. That's how they qualify for it. And then they have, I think, like every day there's like a certain purse, but it's like a really big purse for the big bass.
You are right, Geek. I forgot about that. Yeah, 'cause they paid out. I remember like last year, and that was first year I kind of really paid attention to it. Yeah, like if you had the big bass for day one, you won like $5,000 or some crazy mess. And then it paid like overall, and then it did pay a bunch of different places. Because this is really like their all-star event. That's what I kind of consider. It's like an all-star game.
Yeah,
it's an all-star game for Major League Fishing.
So something that I want to ask you, because I fish, one of my home lakes is South Holston, and I'm always targeting smallmouth. So one of the things for me that I've really started to key in on, especially since the forward-facing sonar craze, is the different types of shad and what bass are hanging around them. And like keying in on those size, like we've got a lot of the thread fin, but the smallmouth seem like they really key in on those alewives, which we have down here. They're a little bit bigger, and they're they go a lot deeper. So during the wintertime, we're pulling them out of 80 to 100 feet deep. But there's also a little bit smaller, a group of gizzard shad. And for people that don't know, because it sounds like you really know, and I'm trying to get better at this. So this is kind of a selfish question too. Don't give anything away that you don't.
Good.
But on Smith Mountain, let's say this time of year, what do you see as far as, tell everybody kind of, because what I've discovered is the gizzard shad do something different. The thread fin are in a little different place, and the alewives are in a little different place.
Do all the bait fish do something different?
Yeah, touch on that a little bit.
Help me out, Tom.
Most of the time, you see the blueback herring roam in open water, and it's usually on the lower end of the lake, mid-lake to lower end. They travel fast, they move fast. When you get around them, that they're blueback herring. At least I can pick them out anyway. The bigger thread fins, alewives, you can kind of pick those out too. And then you got your smaller thread fins that are, they're a year or 2 years old or whatever if you haven't had a shad kill. Yeah. And then you got your gizzard shad. And sometimes those gizzard shad are the hardest ones to see because they stay right against the bottom and you really got to get shallow to find them, but they'll be right in the clear water, sometimes right on the main channel or whatever, and they're going to be big ones. I mean, some of them are 10, 12 inches long.
Yeah.
So, being able to figure out exactly what they're doing, the thread fins and the gizzard shad are probably the two biggest ones that eat the same things. That's why they can't live together. But will all the bait fish eat a lot of the same things? Sure. But you see them very consistent with each other because, I've seen both worlds where when the gizzard shad are thriving, they take over the habitats of the thread fins. And then once the thread fins start taking over, you go back to those same areas and there's just thread fins there, and that's all that's there. So that's what I see. Blueback herring, it's kind of like a drone flying around that has no control.
Yeah, that's about right.
You don't know where they're going to be, what they're doing, except for in May.
Mm-hmm.
And late April, May, you know where they're going to be. They're going to be on those red clay banks. They're going to be roaming around, and there's going to be wolf packs of bass chasing them.
Yep.
And if you don't run into them, you're not going to catch them. But when you run into them, it's like fast and furious. It's 4 and 5 pound fish, and you can catch them as quick as you can cast. But it's just finding them because they move so fast. It's crazy. So yeah, I mean, the shad thing is really hard to figure out. It's kind of a really hard thing to identify them too. I mean, it's like even with sonar, like I learned to pick up things. I mean, I could sit here and describe it, but unless you saw exactly what you wouldn't really be able to see. And I don't have any photos to share, but you can kind of pick them out, and that's what I do a lot of times. I'm looking for different types of bait, and you can go all over this lake right now, and you can find every scenario possible.
Oh wow!
All of a sudden, you just get right in the right area, and the bass are with them, and you just covered miles of water. And once you figure out that key piece that's attracting that style of bait fish, that's the ticket. Smith Mountain doesn't fish. It's not about spots. If you're fishing spots on Smith Mountain, you're not going to win very often, because if you don't understand what's going on under the water, somebody's going to be sitting on your spot. Somebody's going to be sitting on that spot because it's 20,000 acres, but it fishes like about 3,000.
Wow.
And it's very small. If you understand the fish and you're on a pattern and you know exactly what's going on, that's the key. And it's just like we've had, I don't know, 4 bags of fish in the last couple of weeks, 22 to 26 pounds, and none of them have been caught in the same places.
Does it always fish that small, 3,000 acres, or is it seasonal when it fishes that small?
Certain times of the year it's spot oriented, but most of the time there's some kind of pattern. And then once you find that pattern, you got to find the pattern within it. That's the hard part. If you get that part
fishes small
figured out, if you get that part figured out and you figure out that key bite, you can run with it all over this lake. It's crazy how predicted it is.
You're talking about patterns there. Do you kind of have a fall, a spring, and a winter pattern that you and your partner fish on a regular basis, or does it kind of change each and every year for both of you?
Changes every year.
Every year. Okay.
Doesn't matter whether it's spring, fall, summer, winter. It changes every year. It's different areas, and one of the best things that I always say: fish as fast as you can, but fish as slow as you can.
So do the Kevin Van Dam thing. Run up in a pack, hit the whole entire cove, and if you find the pocket, then you stay. And if you don't find it, you keep on moving.
Yeah, and it changes day to day. I mean, I'll give you for instance. I went in a spot here. I don't know. It's probably been 5 or 6 weeks ago, and it was just a main channel point. It was bass there around that point. Some of them you could see, some of them you couldn't see. Didn't matter. You could have cut your graph off and still caught them. And we caught them. And I was just fun fishing. I came back and fished a tournament the next day, and I went a half to 3/4 of a mile each way and never found them again.
Wow.
The next day, they were gone.
I wonder what makes them move that fast, though. Especially,
and we're talking about largemouth, right? I mean,
yeah. I wonder what makes them move like that, though.
Smallmouth, that's they'll move like that, but largemouth, I've not encountered largemouth move.
Well, I've experienced the same thing at Lake Erie too. Smallmouth. I mean, they'll be there one day, and the next day, the least little temperature change or wind direction, and they're gone. And you go all over the place before you find them again. You're like, how did they move that far? I don't think they move. I think they just become dormant and they go to the bottom and they sit there.
Put their bellies in the mud and lock down.
That's what I think, because you can come back sometimes in a week or so. I actually came back to that area about a week later, and I think I found the same school of fish. They were about a half a mile further down the lake. But I think it was the same school because it was about the same area size, and they were in there. It was crazy. I don't even know how many that day. Me and Johnny was talking about it, like how many 4-pounders we caught that day. It was,
wow.
I mean, we were just throwing 4-pounders back. Like, that ain't gonna help. That ain't gonna help. And it was like, we might as well just quit fishing because we're not getting anywhere. So
that is crazy.
I don't think I've been lucky enough to fish a lake where you do that.
Leave your area, man. My God, just shoot one video that's outside your area.
Yeah, but I've been back to that area since then, and not caught them ever since that day. So twice in that little vicinity, and that's how much they move. So I don't know. We never have really figured out what is in their minds of what triggers them to do all that. It's crazy how they just change. But that's just the nature of a bass, and I think that's why we're always out there chasing them around. We got the challenge trying to figure them out. But then we've had days, that we go out and struggle. So it's you're just not going to catch them every time. I think the weekend's going to be tough, to be honest with you.
It probably is because the weather's going to change again. So
it'll change 3 times this week.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No consistency whatsoever.
None.
All right, let's take a quick commercial break here and talk about the Money Saver Lure Retriever. And tired of watching the expensive lures disappear into the deep, afraid to cast where the big ones hide. Introducing the Money Saver Lure Retriever, the ultimate solution for rescuing snagged lures from the lake bottom. The powerful 2-inch, 3-ounce pocket-sized miracle is engineered to direct hit, plug, knocking efficiency. Cast with confidence into the trophy fish hideouts. Small investment, huge return. Save hundreds on expensive gear while fishing where others fear to cast. No special skill needed. Just keep it in your pocket until you need it. The Money Saver Lure Retriever, your portable lifeline in snag-filled waters. Available in moneysaver.store. Let's transfer over this, man. You keep up with the tiger bass pretty well. You guys all know. I mentioned earlier the Big Bass Tour has been to Smith Mountain Lake the last couple of years, a lot of years. But in the last couple of years, they've been doing some threadfin sample and been sampling, some of the bass that have been coming in. Chad, I know you keep up with a lot of the biology and a lot of stuff that's happening on the lake. Is there anything that you can give us that you've heard of, how the lake is doing as a whole?
It's still thriving. I mean, the numbers of bass, we're still thriving. The striper population's thriving. The crappie populations have been a little bit different, but that's a different species altogether. They're just kind of different. But as far as the F1s, I mean, the samplings have been great. And The last time we sampled, we were around a 33% catch ratio, which is a large number. They do that sampling in the spring when the bass are shallow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that catch ratio is very high. So this year is our 10th year of stocking. I'm not 100% sure how or what they're going to do. This was a 10-year program after the 3 years of success when we started. So I don't know the answers to whether they'll continue to do that or not. The numbers are looking good for the continuation of it, but as well as I do, you know how budgets are when you go into business.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Funding there, is it going to be a reduced number? Is it going to be halted? I don't have that answer. But what I do know is I've been taking large fish samples for a while, and the biologists have a lot of them, which I've got a few more in there for him, but I've been taking samples of ones that I can get, over 7 pounds. And so it'd be interesting to see. I know there's some data out there that they're waiting on to come back. So hopefully we'll get some more good information, and hopefully they continue it. I mean, it's with the impression it's made here in this community and where it's bringing so much draw. I mean, here you go. Perfect example. You got 3 podcast guys here talking about Smith Mountain Lake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. 10 years ago, that was not happening, which podcasts are a big thing now. But at the same time, you add up all the views that all of these things take place. You got the MLF coming in here, the heavy hitters. You got the Big Bass Tour. You got the MPFL coming in here. And then you've got the Virginia sampling from the game department here recently, where Smith Mountain went to number 1 for the number of citations in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really did. If you guys didn't, I forgot to bring that up. If you guys didn't see that, we did have the most citations. I think we actually didn't we bring it up on the last episode, Thomas, or an episode before? We brought that up, or someone brought it up, or something. We were talking about that, but yeah,
it's a very interesting situation. I mean, if you guys know, I'm really good friends with the department. I have all of their fishing reports releasing here in a month once I get it through their marketing thing. And it's really 2 things can be true at once. Yes, that there is a difference that the stocking makes. Is it justify the cost? I've talked to them multiple times about the James River. They don't think they'll ever restock it again because, again, they're like, if you get a 2 to 3 pound bump, is that worth $100,000? Is that worth $200,000? Can they financially justify that?
Right.
And it always comes down to the money, which sucks. And I think what's going to end up happening is it's going to be swinging back into the private sector of us getting a nonprofit together or something and doing it ourselves, because it does work. But the way it was articulated to me, and I kind of get it with the way governments are being cut left and right, is can we justify this bill to say that we've increased the average by 2 pounds, let's say? That's a hard sell for them. I don't know, but I think something has to be done to sustain it, because the way Texas Department told me about it is the supplemental stocking makes it so when you have lows, they're just not as low. That's the biggest thing, is it helps you from having those bottom out years, especially if you're talking about river systems. I'm a big smallmouth guy. That's huge, because you can have blowout years and you lose 2 or 3 seasons of smallmouth spawn. So I don't know. It's a success, but I think we got to start tightening up our bootstraps and start flipping the bill ourselves, sadly.
Yeah, no, I think that's possible. It's, I'm in touch with them a lot. Do a lot of things with them. So, I think with what everybody's seen now,
mm-hmm.
I don't think it would be hard to go raise $10,000 to put 20,000 fingerlings in every year.
No.
Not what we've seen. We may be able to get more than that. Because there's people out there that, in the beginning, I mean, it was hard to get money. They were like skeptical, like, is this going to work? Look at the numbers of fish over 8 pounds that's been caught in the last 10 years. I can tell you, it is a large number compared to the 10 years before that.
Well, there was another 10-pounder caught on the James last weekend, the James freaking River, the Chickahominy. And I was talking to a friend. is it because of social media, or are we in like the best area of Virginia right now, the best era? Because it just feels like big fish are being caught left and right. Back Bay, Smith, Anna, the Chick. It's insane how it feels like it's all going off right now. Now, maybe it's because of social media, but it just kind of feels like we're in a special time.
Well, I think some of that is also relates to the spawn. You know, you could have really successful spawns. You could have a plethora of shad. You know, that dictates a lot of your fish growth. The numbers of other predator fish in the lake, just like Back Bay. I remember when the Back Bay was like nothing. It went great to nothing. I remember watching the Potomac going from on fire to nothing. And it's come back a little bit. James River and Chickahominy. I mean, back in the day, it was large numbers of fish, but not large fish,
Yeah.
So, they all have their highs and their lows. I've seen Smith Mountain go up and down numerous times too. But what I can tell you is I've been around here long enough and fished with enough people that's been around here way longer than me. Now, granted, we have more technology, right? But fish were easier to catch 30 years ago than they are now.
Oh, yeah.
Is the
And
technology.
even the larger ones were easier to catch 30 years ago than now. So, like I said, when that 10-pounder, when that thing came out of the water, I know my boy had been like heart beating like a mofo. That's like a fish of a lifetime.
I haven't seen one, me personally, for a few years. I can't remember. It was a couple years ago I caught one. It wasn't 10 pounds. It was 9 pounds, 14 ounces. But, given a set of scales, it could go either way, a few ounces or whatever. But in my book, that's pretty much a 10-pounder.
Yeah.
But like last spring, we were right at 30 pounds with 5 fish. That's never happened here.
I'll be the one with a hot take. I think we're kind of entering a golden era for Virginia right now. Is it like where it was in the good old days? I don't, probably not, but we have a conscious effort to stock. We have a conscious effort to make the water better. Like you said, Back Bay is back. There's so many fisheries that are having a resurgence to where it's not just one place you can go and have a good day. Is there more fishing pressure? 100% agree with that. But is there also a conscious effort to improve it with genetics and making sure the water? This Shenandoah River was terrible when I was a kid. I lived right on its shores because of the DuPont scandal. And now, you can catch 20 pounds of smallmouth. It's insane that you have these two dualities here where pressure and forward-facing sonar, but on the same time, you do have the department and private groups trying their damnedest to improve everything around us as well.
Right. Yeah, and it takes us as fishermen to protect it also.
Yeah.
Doing everything you can to protect the fishery, letting the fish spawn and do their things. I think that's one of the things that I've seen here, the smallmouth declines over the years from what it used to be. I think is definitely due to sight fishing. That's my personal opinion. I'll never change my mind because it takes a smallmouth forever to reach 5 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and I've been doing this thing long enough that it was only maybe about 5 or 6 years ago that a father-son duo brought in 25 pounds of smallmouth, 5 pounds a piece. Right at over 5 pounds a piece. And we have not seen that in the last couple of years. So,
Brian, didn't Kevin Van Dam win with smallmouth?
A lot, yes.
Yeah.
It was a big portion of his purse. Okay.
Yeah, when that was 09, I want to say that tournament was.
Time frame, 08, 09.
Yeah.
Yeah, even back go back into 97, 98, 99. It was crazy the smallmouth that was on his lake.
And I think that's one of the things that's happening in South Holston. There's a large number of bass, but I think the biggest problem is we've seen, 5 years ago it was taking, multiple 20-pound bags, 22, 23 pound bags of smallmouth, and in a BFL. Now, it's 19, 20. You get one bag that's in that 20-pound range. But, man, everybody knows what to target. There's guys coming down now, who I see it all the time. Listen, and I'll be the first to tell you, I love to go catch them when they're on the beds. Now, you're not sight fishing. We call it throwing a little green worm. But, I see guys holding them 4 fish up and they ain't even in a tournament. And I'm like, dude, they're spawning. Why? Why are you carrying those bass around? Catch them and put them right back,
Yeah.
And I think it's hurt. That lake is so fertile that it's always going to produce numbers. But, those 4-pounders and 5-pounders, which were pretty easy to catch 5-6 years ago, are few and far between.
And you wonder if that means you had a couple of bad spawn classes to where.
Well, so last year, it's like they all came at once. And there was a BFL, and we did the math. And this isn't even counting what cold. There was 600 bass brought to the weigh-in. Now that's a small lake, man. That's a small lake.
6,000 acres.
Think about that for a second. You take 600 bass. Now, how many fry, if they had a successful spawn, how many fry that would hatch?
Yeah.
Or protect for a time period until they get big enough to get out into open water or away from prey. Once they get out into the open water, they no longer need any support because there's not a lot of fish out there that's going to prey on them.
And I think I'll finish your thought.
So you think about that for a minute, and just like the same thing happened here. I guess it was 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. It was BFL here, and that was all these smallmouth. They were everywhere. And it was guys catching 12, 13-pound smallmouth coming back and weighing them in, and they're not going to get a check. All those are fishing 4 points.
Yeah.
There's 130 boats in here, and everybody had that 12, 14 pounds of smallmouth. Yep. I'm telling you, if you had a family of chickens out here that you were raising eggs off of every year to have little chickens, and you went out there and you took her off the nest every time, you're probably not going to have too many little big baby chicks running around. Nope. It's just Mother Nature, and you're messing with Mother Nature when you do that. It's no different than with cattle. When they're birthing a calf, you get in there and interfere, you're probably causing more harm than you're helping.
What is the solution?
Yeah. Leave them alone during the spawn.
Yeah.
Insert a slot limit. Reverse psychology. Okay. Put a slot limit in for 18 to 24-inch fish. Right? During 4 weeks of the spawn in the state of Virginia.
What about catch weigh release or catch photo release?
Yeah. So you can do that, right? You can catch them, but you just can't have them in captivity. Well, guess what? Yeah. When you can't do that, most of the guys are not going to say, hey, let's have a tournament, right? They're not going to want to do that because they don't want to bring 5 males back to weigh in. So then you got Joe Blow out there and Billy Bob or whoever. They're going out there and catching 7 or 8 fish off the beds, say 10 boats per week or whatever. Is that going to hurt your fishery? No. If you put 800 guys out there in a big bass tour during the spawn or a BFL, just like he was saying, is it detrimental?
Well, South Holston's 7,500 acres.
Close.
Yeah.
And it's, it just like, look, I was waiting for it. I was out there the Monday after, could not buy a worm bite. Could not. Even had a guy from West Virginia. He looks at me and he goes, man, I hate to bother you. He goes, and I don't, but you having any luck today? I said, dude, I've thrown in places where I could call my shots. And I said, I ain't caught a one yet. And he goes, man, I take this week off from work and come down here and fish this just for fun. Ooh. And he goes, I've never seen it this bad. Wow. And I mean, dude, so many limits weighed in. I mean, just straight down, so many 12 and 14 pound bags, And I mean, I think we kind of did the math, and like I said, it had to be, if you're guessing how many were cold, had to be right at 500-600 bass on a 75 weighed in that day, or at least caught that day.
It just comes down to, what are we going to do? Because if you want to do, since, as you guys know, I'm on the board for Maryland, the slippery slope of becoming Pennsylvania, we're like, listen, you're not allowed to fish for bass from April to June. And you're like, great, awesome. You're like, hey, listen, the water's hot. You're not allowed to fish for them from June until September. It's like, great. So you just legislatively took away more than half the year that we're not allowed to fish because people complained. So I don't think that's necessarily the best option, because that's a little too draconian. So what is the way that this can be fixed without basically making it illegal to fish?
Well, one thing about fishing in warm water. So, I cut my teeth fishing in summertime here. And I remember the days where there was 15, 20 bass out there floating around because nobody knew what a needle was. And, I remember bringing that back here 20 years ago and showing people how to do it. And a lot of people are doing it now. And I'm still, Brian Carter seen me do it, in tournaments. Catch that one right there. Let me fish him real quick. Yeah. But guess what? You're going to lose 20% of your population to natural causes or whatever every year. But what happens is, when you're fishing during spawn, just during that 2 or 3 week time period, it's not that you can't fish, right? You just can't have them in captivity. That's what you need to focus on.
Yeah.
You can fish all you want, just not in captivity. That way they can go back, they'll be left alone, etc. But those fish are having hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of little babies.
Yep.
That one fish or 10 fish that die in the summertime over a week's time period in night tournaments is no different than a guy going out there and catching 10 fish to eat throughout the summer and say, I'm going to flay these up and put in my freezer. No impact.
No, I agree with you. I think the fish mortality rate is completely overblown, because if your thought as the state is we want zero mortality, what you're saying is eventually you want to outlaw fishing, because that's where you're pushing the needle. Mm-hmm. And I also think that this is where we're going to say the naughty word, Boyd Duckett was right, that catch, photo, release, catch, weigh, release, that's coming hard. It's going to get more and more steam to where it just makes sense. Yeah, go out there. You're just taking the picture and putting the thing right back. You're weighing it and putting it right back. I think once the technology gets there to where the weighing system for cheating is a thing, will live wells be something that we just tell our grandkids used to exist? Like, I don't.
It's
possibly.
I mean, I run a GoPro every tournament.
Yes,
it's always there.
We have talked about that many times on here, Chad, about that making it legal. Where we do a catch, weigh, release tournament. Everybody has to run a GoPro the whole entire time, document the fish.
Yep.
But we're at a point where, guys, we're at a point in the world of fishing. This catch, weigh, and release. We do it through the kayak series. We do it through the Bass Pro series, and there is, I don't know. I guess I know the Smith Mountain Lake Bassmasters, are they still doing catch, weigh, and release? They were at one time. Yeah. I don't know. Don't quote me, guys. I don't know.
I don't know if they are. I know they were at one time.
They were. It was and a lot of guys don't, and that's the problem. A lot of guys don't like it because I was explained from their tournament director, it's a round robin. You don't have the same partner every week. 10 guys show up with a boat, 10 guys show up with the rods, and I could be fishing with Chad one week and next week I'm fishing with Thomas. So you never have the same partner each and every week. And, they kind of do the best they can with it. But we've also seen we talk about here the Wild Wild West series, which was very unique because they did a catch, weigh, and release as well. They did by inches. And they also I think they allowed you to keep, I can't, Geek, I think you spoke about.
You had a top 5 by inches and a top 5 by weight.
Yeah, so you had top 5 by both. So I mean, they kind of tried to help protect the West Coast.
Which the way he explained it, which will be much better than what we did. It was actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was really interesting the way they did it.
And I know a lot of guys don't like the catch, weigh, release, but with the way cameras are getting easier to deal with, I mean, I don't think it's an issue. And it's like I always say, everybody's like, well, you can cheat. Well, listen, if old Bob and Tom in a team tournament
Claytor Lake, cough, cough.
decide they gonna go cheat, do you think their buddy's gonna turn them in? Hell no, they gonna split that shit and go on down the road.
Yeah, but
They ain't telling on each other.
it's also going to be government. I mean, so example is I live in Western Maryland right now, and a couple years ago when Maryland tried to fall more in line with Pennsylvania, the Antietam Bassmasters, who is associated with the Bass Federation, we had a choice: either have our tournaments from September to January, or we do catch, weigh, release, and then since we have a co-angler, you both have to certify it. And so we went that route because they changed the laws on when you can put fish in a live well. So
I think that's coming. I think
coming.
the live well piece is coming certain times of the year, and it'll be on. When is it? I don't know, but it's just like everything else we do in this world. Change. As long as our heart's beating, we're going to see changes, and you just have to adapt to it. And for the most part, being around this lake as long as I have, I know there's people here that were not legitimate over the years. I know for a fact. Every one of them, at some point in time, they were exposed. Things came up. They went away. I don't think that's ever going to go away.
No.
100%.
As long as there's money on the line, somebody's gonna find a way.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what sport it is. I mean, I mean, look at professional sports.
If they deflate the ball.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap this show up. But, yeah, guys, want to thank Chad Green for coming on tonight and talking with us. Really appreciate that. Again, like I said, Last Cast Guide Service is not Bass Cast Guide Service yet. I don't own it yet, but it's Last Cast Guide Service. You guys check out the awesome hat he's got on his head right there. Hopefully I'll own one pretty soon because we love Chad Green and we love everything he does. If you guys are watching this video, the boss was walking behind him earlier. She fed me pizza after the game warden almost arrested us, but it went all right. My first fishing license check in like 5 years happened.
I know, that's right. Yeah, you were.
And I was like, we were going to go eat dinner, and Chad's wife brought us pizza, and me and Danielle were like, shit, we got to update our damn phones and all that crap because we all, everybody now has their. I mean, not everybody. A lot of people have them on their phones now because we already have a phone with us, so we just have it on our phone. So we had to re-download everything to show that we had a fishing license that day on Smith Mountain Lake. So
you remember that, Brian? There was I guess he was a newer officer at the time.
Yes.
I handed him my captain's license, and he's like, "What is this?" Because he'd never seen one before. It's like a passport. Yeah, it's like a passport. You got all your IDs and everything. Like, what is this? He was used to seeing the little cards. I was like,
little cards, yeah. So,
man,
book a trip, Last Cast Guide Service, Smith Mountain Lake. Chad, I'll let you ping where they can reach out to you on top of the beautiful website, how they can get in touch with you and book a trip today. So,
yeah, you can just find me on Facebook, Last Cast Guide Service, SML. Same thing for the website. You can find my phone number there. I'm a busy guy. I'm just going to let you know. I mean, I do everything. I'm into everything. I limit my trips. I do as much as I can. But I can usually work you in somewhere along the lines. Especially March is usually a typically really busy time for me because I'm a tournament fisherman. That's what I really love to do. But I enjoy the time with people. More than anything, I do more teaching than anything. Seminars, I just did one here.
I saw that.
Last 2 weeks ago, it was packed full. Had a fun time with that. Work a lot with the younger kids. So hit me up. You can find my phone number. No problem there. I'll teach you what I know. Appreciate you having me on the show.
All right, guys. Like I said, check out SML. Last Cast Guide Service and reserve a trip today. And if I can closing words for a roll out of here this week.
Live long and prosper.
Boom, I heard that.
Right.
All right, guys. Like I said earlier, man, make sure you guys check out. There's a lot of there's it's a quiet year at the lake, but the big boys are coming. They announced we got the NPFL coming next year. So there's come on out, book a trip with Chad, and enjoy Smith Mountain Lake. Good luck finding you a house to stay in. You might find one, but good luck finding one on the lake. But like I said, it's a beautiful lake, clear lake, and it's a great place to come and fish. And like you said, citations. You go have some nice looking fish if you fish with Smith Mile Lake. So, guys, really appreciate everyone listening tonight. Again, thank you, Chad, for coming on and talking to us. Everybody have a great week, and we will have a Basscast Tournament Trail recap next week right here on Basscast Radio.
Good deal.